I wanted to pivot a little bit. We talk about obviously being young and coming up in the industry, and what about mentorship? Have you guys felt that you've had the right mentorship? Are there people you can point to in your careers, whether it's a teacher or someone professionally that's mentored you? And do you think the industry does a good enough job at mentorship?
I think it depends again on the company. I mentioned before that you really need to have a leader in a role that makes time for you. But okay, Dr. Nick's not in this room, but I've actually written not papers, but I've written about him in a couple of different places about how he inspired me through the program. I think I had him as a teacher 7 or 8 times. And just the way that he kind of teaches the class with passion and real experiences, that was something that was a mentor role to me, I think, as I was coming up. So as I am training other team members and so on, I try and do it the same way. So I think if there is someone that feels that same passion that you have and can make the time for it, I think that's the best way for it.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem though, because like you, I found my mentor through school. So I think the education side of it is really what drives the mentor-mentee relationship, not necessarily the industry itself, which I think is a problem. I mean, if you're trying to develop future hospitality leaders, wouldn't you want to be the one trying to provide a mentorship to somebody?
I mean, I've been with 4 Seasons for 7 years, and I'm definitely a better person now than I was when I went into it. I think that they, and obviously you guys can tell I drank the Kool-Aid. I love the brand, but I think that they've really done a great job at looking at me as an individual and giving me experiences. I mean, I've moved with 4 Seasons 4 times, and every time there are people there on the other side ready and waiting and looking at my development. And our VP of HR for the Americas, she has quite a big role, and she calls me once a quarter to check in and see how I'm doing. So it's not an official mentor program, but at the end of the day, I would not be who I am without.
Yeah. You feel like you're not slipping through the
cheesy,
cracks.
I know I'm getting really cheesy.
Like people actually are there for.
Yeah. It's definitely individualized, which I really appreciate.
Sure. Anyone else?
I kind of agree. I mean, I went from being just an intern at the front office to being assistant director in just over 4 years. And it's at a big box. It's very unheard of being so young.
Crushing it, huh?
It wasn't easy, but if I didn't have the mentor that I did, I certainly would not have been able to get myself to where I needed to be able to be in my current role.
Right.
And it's something that I don't think it's anything really that you can say it's like a brand-based thing or a hotel even, because even just last year, I spent a lot of time in our winter months. Obviously we're slower being convention-based, going as task force and working at other hotels, like from Hawaii to Manhattan, everywhere. And it's really the property. It's
right.
If I've had so many experiences where you go in kind of as an outsider and you realize how lucky you are having those people at your property. And it's just one of those things where it's like if they've had that experience, they want to give back. So because I've had that, I do that with my interns, and I pick and choose and really try to grow them. And it's just, if there's not and someone that's like that in that department, unfortunately, it just stops there.
Yeah.
One of the things that we actually try to do, because I agree with you a lot, sometimes if you're not in the right property environment, then you really don't have any other options. We've really tried, especially, and also kind of to your point, if you haven't come up through the hospitality education route, then you really don't have anybody. We've started to try to connect people who are new to hospitality, not only with a managerial level kind of mentor, but we also have really tried to focus on connecting them with somebody who's really their peer at a completely different property, who's kind of in the day-to-day, front lines of the hospitality industry, and hopefully someone that they're a little more comfortable to, going to than a manager with, a question that they might be nervous to ask because they think it's stupid or something like that. So somebody that they can really connect with and, kind of bounce ideas off of each other and what works for you. How did you handle this specific situation? And it's worked out really well for us. I think we've been able to develop really our talent in a much stronger way by having those connections across our portfolio, not just vertically at an individual property.
And I would agree with that. Yeah, it comes a lot down to trust, I think. I hold trainings quite often in my position, and if I were to just email someone like, here's a checklist of what you have to do, and like, here's where you go, and blah, 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 versus putting aside an hour to train them on the phone, make sure that they take the screen and they do it themselves, and there's plenty of time for questions. I will 9 times out of 10 get responses back from that person with more questions, and oh, here, I thought you might like this, and blah, 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 versus if I just went the email route, I would never hear from them again, and then I'd have to follow up when there were issues. So I think in making the time and realizing that it should be a top concern, I mean, to lower turnover and everything, I think it should be one of the next steps in our industry.
I want to ask you, what about for your companies and who you are as individuals, does social responsibility matter to you? And that your companies are doing something in that regard? No one's shaking their head now, that's good.
I actually, our company has been, the one I work for, has been around for 31 years. And this last year, there was me and one other person that formed this kind of committee for corporate social responsibility, and we just pushed Clean the World Live for our entire portfolio.
Nice.
So it's a mandate. The owners weren't too thrilled about it because
There's no ROI?
There's a cost associated, no ROI, but I mean, it's just the right thing to do when
Yeah.
you're looking at all the soap and conditioner, everything that's just being thrown away versus recycled for, different countries and organizations and stuff. So that, I think, was our first big step in the right direction, but it's slow. It's a slow process.
Do you think that, the big company, Marriott, Hilton, do you think they do enough in that regard?
I think we could always do more, especially if you look at any restaurant, they throw away so much food, they throw away all the shampoos and conditioners. I don't know, there's a place in France in general, like grocery stores are required to, they can't like throw away fruit if it like looks bad, which in America that's just what they do. And like in restaurants and whatnot, so much food is wasted. In any business, so much is wasted. So I think we could always be moving towards being more socially responsible, using less waste. Even though we are a business and that costs money, we also, the world is where we live, and we want to make it last as long as possible.
Yes, we're not going to Mars anytime soon, so, as Al Gore says.